Hey everybody, I hope you've had a good day. Unfortunately, I would like to leave a quick sorrow and condolences to Chester Bennington and Lincoln Park. It's kind of super cheesy and tacky to do this, but it's affected me today. Unfortunately, he committed suicide, and when celebrities end up doing this sort of thing, it gets very difficult and upsetting because obviously everybody on the internet wants to leave their opinion, and it just doesn't sit very well. The public has a very misinformed idea about mental health and people's lives, and they make assumptions, and it just never sits very well. And everybody's going through a difficult time. Of course, his actual family and friends, those are the ones that actually matter, and they have to shift their lives and deal with this difficult thing. Whereas the rest of us, we were fans of him and his work, and we feel a kinship in a different kind of way, but it's important for people to be able to talk about it and express themselves, and it's unfortunate that the stigma that comes with suicide and mental health and all these things leads people down a path of being hateful and not understanding of the situation. I wouldn't condone suicide. I wouldn't condone feeling like that's your only option. But to shout someone down, their legacy, or to talk about mental health generally, without any real knowledge of it, is just not helpful to anyone. It's not something that people can turn on and off. It's not something that is noticeable either. It's very popular for people to share the helpline, and suddenly everyone cares, and it's so frustrating because up until this point nobody seemingly cares. People are kind of aware that maybe they know you've had a history of mental health or something, and mental health issues, and nobody cares until something bad happens, and that's really frustrating. And I hate that this is somber. I apologize, but this is real, and this is real stuff that I want to talk about. And most people put so much emphasis on the bullshit that they don't care, that they care about, that doesn't matter. People worry about drama and Kim Kardashian and all the little nonsense. They care about controlling people as opposed to being loving, and they care about cutting people off on the road instead of giving them the right of way. It's it's all these negative things. They care about giving off this negative vibe to people around them, and judge them, and pick on them, and bully kids, and put all these expectations on kids to be what they want them to be because they weren't adequate enough themselves. We put so much emphasis on all this bullshit in our lives that the fact that we have lives at all is really what matters. That we should be doing everything we can to be nice to each other and appreciate each other and express gratitude. And I've talked about that before in the past. Is gratitude will lead you into incredible places, and more people need to express that. I think what having mental health issues for me has given me perspective. It's given me a greater sense of gratitude for being alive in a situation where my brain doesn't always let me live to my fullest. It's not about demons, and a lot of people want to talk about that too, saying oh, he's suffered all these demons and he deal with all this stuff and blah 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 blah. And it's not demons. Demons aren't real. It's brain chemistry. It's brain chemistry mixed with life experience, and those things are what make life difficult. And then something can come back. You can feel like you have your life under control, and then something comes back into your life and triggers all of that over again. It doesn't go away. There's no cure. There's no amount of money or wealth or status that can save you from that. And it doesn't matter who you are. What you need to do is just show compassion for other people. Show empathy. Be nice. Because you never know who's suffering. And why should you treat one person with more respect than another person? just be nice. That's all you have to do. I apologize for that last segment being so negative and frustrating, but it's kind of a reflection of how I feel today. I feel very disappointed in how the world continues to react to these things, how the world continues to react to mental illness, and really not just mental illness, but things that they don't understand. A lot of people talk about things they don't get, and why? Why are you spouting off nonsense? Why are you relaying your opinion on something that doesn't need your opinion? It's like, take a little bit of time and have a discussion. Ask questions. Don't give statements. Ask questions. If you're unsure about something, don't pretend to be sure about something. If you don't understand why someone who is rich and famous can do this sort of thing, maybe you should ask questions as opposed to making judgments and statements and generalizations. I think that's a lot of the frustration that I've dealt with, and I think a lot of people have been plenty of people have been dealing with, but I can only speak to myself, is that there are broad sweeping generalizations being made across the board. It's more public than ever. I think it's always happened since the dawn of time. Humans just do that, but more than ever, we've been aware of these generalizations that people make about demographics and generations and different races and different nations and different religions and different types of people, mental health or normal, quote-unquote, type of people. It's all... you see it so much on the internet. You're more aware of it more than ever, and for me, I get so frustrated by the same things happening over and over again that it just becomes more apparent to me than ever that we need to take a different perspective, which is why I have been open about being a mental health advocate and being very open about my own mental health issues, because I want to fight that stigma. I want to fight those generalizations. I don't want people to make assumptions about me and my behavior. I don't want people to hear bipolar and think I'm nuts. That's not how that works. It's a mood disorder. It's affected by the world around you. We had this big problem and discussion when the show 13 Reasons Why came out, and they didn't understand why it was. A lot of people who didn't understand or didn't like it were people who didn't really have empathy, or I've not seen expressed empathy for anyone who's dealt with those situations. Now, that show dealt with more extreme situations, but it started out harmless, which is what happens. Something like bipolar disorder or any other issues like that tend to manifest from constant social stressors. So if you're in a social situation where you're not getting enough support, then that can end up manifesting a latent disorder that you didn't know that you had, whether it was bipolar disorder or ADD or something like that. That might be more of a dormant type of disease. And I don't even like saying disease or illness, really, because it's not something that is like, you don't take a pill and it goes away. It's not a 24-hour bug. It's not a cold. So I think much like a lot of things that are going on in the world, there's like a branding issue, essentially. I think America and on its own is dealing with a lot of branding issues, but I also think that mental illness and the stigmas are all branding issues. We get used to the idea of illness, and illness equals this, or this equals that. And that's why words are important. That's why the look and feel of something when you're designing something is important, because you have to play to people's perceptions, play to people's ideas of things. If you label something as an illness, it's always going to be seen as a negative. It's always going to be seen as something you can treat, that you can just take a pill and make it go away, that you can have doctors follow you 24/7 and you'll be fine. And that's just not how it works. It's just not. That's not life. You have to, it relies on the person having the will to live and continuing to have the will to live and being within a good social structure and good social support. You could have millions of fans and still feel like the world is against you. If you've been dying to start that podcast about doves, or about your favorite jacket, or about a long-lost love, or a murder mystery about a cat who murdered everybody, you can start it now on Spotify for podcasters. I've been on Anchor for a long time, and now it is officially Spotify for podcasters, and it has been a platform that has been growing for forever. And I love it, and I still use it to this day, and it has hosted this podcast for 500 plus episodes now. So I highly recommend it. It is free to use. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. I'm literally on my bed recording on my, the phone is on the bed, and I'm just talking, and it's not that complicated. And then you can distribute your podcast on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. So video podcasts are available too if you want to show your pretty face and have people see you. You can do all that too. So just do it. It's totally free, no catch. Give it a try. Spotify for podcasters. Let's go. It's incredibly difficult to explain to someone that you're not a broken or lesser of a person because of the things that you deal with, because you need a more specific structure or you need specific types of people around you. It's hard. I mean, there's this perception of normal out there. And for me, the past few months, really the past year, I went to therapy. I got a lot of help because I was kind of drowning with a lot of personal stuff. And therapy really helped me regain my sense of self and realize that I had a lot more control of my life than I thought I did. I thought that I was just kind of giving in to the whims of the world around me and that I couldn't really do much about it. And you realize that there's so much that you can control. You can control how people treat you. You can control if people are judging you. You can say no to things. You can back away from people. You can back away from certain situations that are not making you feel good. You can leave a job that you're not happy with. You can report a boss that is not treating you well. You can leave, unfortunately you might have to leave a family member or leave a spouse that's maybe not treating you the way you would like. Maybe you're feeling isolated and you need to get away from that. I think a lot of people convince themselves that they don't have a way out, and that one way out ends up being something not good at all. It ends up being, ending your life. And it's frustrating because what I think that show 13 Reasons Why ended up doing really well was showing that people were going through their lives fairly normally, and these things were these negative feelings that the main character was feeling were sort of building in the background, and people kind of dismissed it as regular teenage nonsense and not really taking it seriously. And then some real serious things happened, and those actions were not taken seriously either. And then by the end of the show, it didn't quite, obviously things didn't work out. So it's, people post things like look for the signs and ask for help, or tell people to ask for help, and average, everyday, normal, quote-unquote normal people don't see the signs of that stuff. I think there are plenty of people in my life that I've talked to who I would tell them about who I am, and the first reaction would be like, oh, I've never saw that in you, or you didn't look like a person that would do that, or you never seemed like a person that would think that. And that speaks to what it is. It's not an outward thing, it's an inward thing. A lot of people don't express it publicly. I'm working on being more comfortable doing that because I want to talk about who I am and be real about it, because this has been who I am since I've been 10 years old. I think a lot of people are very lucky to only have to deal with death when they're presented with death. Whereas I've been nearly constantly thinking about it since I was a kid, whether it was my own death, death of my family or friends or something like that, and being confronted with those real feelings of what would happen if those things happened. How would life be different if I was gone? How would life be different if I was here? At different stages of my life, dealing with adversity, and dealing with different things. Those are real thoughts that people have. And if you take the time to listen and be nice to people, maybe you could get that out of people and not dismiss them as being crazy or saying, go see a therapist. You can try to help people. You can try to get them to go to a hotline. You can try to get them to go to a therapist. But you can't control anyone. You can't control what they do and where they go. The only thing you can control is your place in their life. How you listen to them, how you talk to them, how you interact with them every single day. People dismiss their attitudes. People dismiss how they treat their husbands or wives. They dismiss how they treat coworkers or kids, how much they might yell at them or create these expectations for them. And they take all of those things that they do for granted. They don't feel like they have an effect. And they compound and they have an effect, especially when we live in a world where people aren't comfortable expressing themselves as much as they used to. Yeah. So I think the major takeaway from this sort of bonus after work episode, if you will, I don't know if you call it a bonus, it's kind of somber as shit, but it's real, and I want to be real with people. So the major takeaway is to just be good to people. You never know how you're affecting someone. You could have been the last person that someone spoke to, and then they went, because you were a jerk to them, another person in their life you were a jerk, that was a jerk to them, they went home and finished it. They ended it all because they were done. And you wouldn't know. You would just go on with your life. It wouldn't matter. It's just another human that you barely interact with, you don't care about. I think we need to put more value on each other as people and ourselves. And I think we dismiss others because we don't value ourselves enough. I think if we valued who we are as people, we could value other people. It is a difficult thing to understand because I think it takes conscious thought, and I think a lot of people run on automatic. And maybe don't think about these things like I do, or other people who are dealing with difficult things. They might not think so deeply. It might be painful for them, and they don't like to. I think a lot of people do that. I think that's why religion exists. I think a lot of people embrace religion because it gives them answers to things, or it makes them feel like they have answers to things. And for me, I've never been a religious person, and it never gave me that kind of strength because I don't know, it was never enough for me, and I think that's not enough for a lot of people. I think facing the depths of reality is difficult, but I think I'm ultimately a stronger person for having to do it. I think it makes me feel like I can really tackle anything. If I can overcome myself and my difficulties, then I feel like I really can take on other things. But again, it keeps coming back. It's not something that goes away, and sometimes that consistency of it continuing to come back can be what drives you over the edge. You could maybe go for a few years without feeling terrible, and then go through another deep depression and not feel equipped to handle it. I think a lot of these quote-unquote normal people that are judging people who deal with mental illness wouldn't be able to handle it if they were to face it. That's just that's how I feel. And I totally believe that. It's way more difficult than a lot of people are aware that they know. And I think too many people are pretending that they know. They come up with the first thought in their head, and then they post it on Twitter and they feel good about it. And then for some reason they see it as truth. And that's not true. Talk to people. Ask questions. Don't make assumptions about what you think you know. If somebody's appearing to be hurting, ask them questions. If somebody is, if you're the one, honestly, I mean, you can't badger someone to give you all the information. So really, I'm trying to just speak to people that are already feeling it, because you're the only person that can decide to have the will to live, to keep going. And you have to take charge in that. You have to make that decision. Sometimes every day. So the best thing I can offer, really, is to express gratitude for the things you do have in life. No matter how little that is. Even just having a life is an intense miracle on its own, let alone the amazing things that can come with, having a life and having an impact on people, and people having an impact on you. I'm grateful to have had a lot of great friends in my life who are supportive of the things that I think and say and do, even if they're kind of nuts or sometimes somber or difficult to deal with. I really appreciate that support, and I've needed it. I think a lot of people need it, and don't take for granted the fact that people need you, that you're important to somebody, and you can help them, and they can help you. Be good to each other. I love you guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.